She was humiliated in a luxury store, but her return left everyone speechless. Hey, you all believe this shocking story of a woman who faced harsh treatment in a high-end store, only to come back stronger than ever. What happened next will inspire you. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories of transformation and justice. Let's get into it. The Gilded Emporium, as it was known, was not merely a store. It was a temple of opulence, a place where the elite came to worship at the altar of high fashion and exquisite craftsmanship. Its facade gleamed with promises of grandeur, its windows displaying treasures that most could only dream of possessing. It was here, on a crisp autumn morning, that Ava Harper's life would take an unexpected turn. Ava was no stranger to success. At 35 years old, she had built an empire from the ground up, her name synonymous with innovation in the skincare industry. Her products graced the vanities of celebrities and working women alike, a testament to her philosophy that beauty should be accessible to all. Yet, as she stood before the imposing doors of the Gilded Emporium, a flutter of anticipation danced in her stomach. This was more than a shopping trip. It was a personal milestone, a tangible marker of how far she had come. The heavy glass doors parted with a whisper, and Ava stepped into a world of marble and gold. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen waterfalls from the vaulted ceiling, their light catching on polished surfaces and creating a dazzling display. The air was thick with the scent of leather and expensive perfume, a heady mixture that spoke of wealth and privilege. Ava took a deep breath, savoring the moment. She had earned this, hadn't she? The right to stand among the best, to be counted as one of them. As her eyes adjusted to the brilliance within, Ava became aware of a subtle shift in the atmosphere. The quiet murmur of conversation faltered, replaced by a charged silence. She felt the weight of stares upon her, assessing, judging. It was a feeling she knew all too well, one that had followed her throughout her journey from a modest neighborhood in Atlanta to the upper echelons of the business world. But she had learned to steel herself against it, to stand tall in the face of unspoken prejudice. With measured steps, Ava made her way towards a display of handbags, each one a work of art in its own right. Her fingers, the same fingers that had once mixed homemade skincare concoctions in her mother's kitchen, now longed to caress the supple leather of a bag that cost more than her first car. She reached out, only to be interrupted by a sharp intake of breath from nearby. Two saleswomen, impeccably dressed in black and wearing identical expressions of disdain, had materialized nearby. The taller of the two, her blonde hair pulled back in a severe bun, fixed Ava with a look that could have frozen champagne. Her nameplate read Madison, though Ava doubted she had ever been to Wisconsin. "Can I help you?" Madison's voice was clipped, each word precisely enunciated, as if she were speaking to a child or someone who didn't quite grasp the language. Ava smiled, a gesture born of years of practice in boardrooms where she was often the only woman of color. "Yes, actually, I was hoping to take a closer look at the new collection. I understand you have some pieces that haven't hit the main floor yet." The second saleswoman, Caroline according to her nameplate, exchanged a look with Madison that spoke volumes. It was a look Ava had seen countless times before, a mixture of disbelief and amusement, as if the very idea of her being able to afford their wares was laughable. Madison's lips curled into what might generously be called a smile, though it held all the warmth of a midwinter night. "I'm sure you prefer something more affordable. Perhaps I could direct you to our outlet store? It's just a few blocks away." The words hung in the air, sharp and cutting. Ava felt them like a physical blow, her carefully constructed composure threatening to crumble. She was acutely aware of the other customers, their surreptitious glances and poorly concealed smirks. In that moment, she wasn't Ava Harper, successful entrepreneur and innovator. She was just another black woman, deemed unworthy of the luxury surrounding her. Years of hard work, countless nights spent perfecting formulas, the triumphs and failures that had led her to this point. All of it seemed to evaporate in the face of such blatant prejudice. Ava's hand, which had been reaching for the handbag, fell to her side. She straightened her spine, summoning the strength that had carried her through far worse than this. "Thank you for your assistance," she said, her voice steady despite the storm raging within her. "I think I've seen enough." With that, Ava turned on her heel and walked out of the gilded emporium, leaving behind a wake of whispers and judgmental stares. The autumn air hit her face as she emerged onto the bustling street, a stark contrast to the rarefied atmosphere she had just left. She took a deep breath, filling her lungs with the scent of street vendor pretzels and car exhaust, the real New York, not the sanitized version hidden behind glass and marble. As she walked, her designer heels clicking against the pavement, Ava's mind raced. The humiliation burned, yes, but beneath it, a familiar fire began to kindle. It was the same fire that had driven her to prove wrong every doubter, every naysayer who had told her that a girl from her background couldn't make it in the cutthroat world of beauty and skincare. Ava's phone buzzed in her purse, a reminder of the empire she had built, the lives she had touched with her products and her story. She pulled it out, her fingers hovering over the screen. For a moment, she considered calling her publicist, imagining the headlines. "Successful black entrepreneur discriminated against in luxury store." It would cause an uproar, possibly even force an apology from the gilded emporium. But as quickly as the thought came, Ava dismissed it. That wasn't her way. She had built her brand on positivity, on empowering women to feel beautiful in their own skin. Revenge, no matter how justified, would only feed the cycle of negativity. No, Ava decided as she flagged down a taxi, she would handle this her way. The encounter in the store wasn't just about her. It was about every person who had ever been made to feel less than, who had been judged based on the color of their skin rather than the content of their character. It was about the young girls who looked up to her, who saw in her success a reflection of their own potential. As the taxi wove through the city traffic, Ava's mind was already formulating a plan. She would return to the gilded emporium, not as a victim seeking retribution, but as a force for change. She would show everyone that true class had nothing to do with the price tag on a handbag and everything to do with how you treat others. The taxi pulled up in front of her office building, a sleek tower of glass and steel that housed the headquarters of Harper Beauty. Ava stepped out, her resolve strengthened by the familiar surroundings. This was her world, one she had created through sheer determination and an unwavering belief in herself. As she walked through the lobby, employees greeted her with genuine smiles and respectful nods. Here, she was valued not for the clothes she wore or the car she drove, but for her vision, her leadership, and her humanity. It was a stark reminder of what truly mattered. Ava's assistant, Zoe, met her at the elevator, tablet in hand and concern etched on her face. "Ms. Harper, is everything all right? You look—" "I'm fine, Zoe," Ava interrupted, managing a smile. "But I need you to clear my schedule for the rest of the day. We have work to do." Zoe nodded, fingers flying across the tablet. She had been with Ava long enough to recognize that tone. It was the voice of a woman on a mission, the same voice that had launched game-changing products and philanthropic initiatives. As the elevator doors closed, Ava caught a glimpse of her reflection in the polished metal. She saw strength there and determination, but also a flicker of the hurt little girl who had once been told she didn't belong. It was time to prove, once and for all, that she belonged anywhere she chose to be. The elevator ascended, carrying Ava towards her office and the beginning of a journey that would not only change her life but the lives of countless others. The Gilded Emporium had no idea what was coming, but Ava Harper was about to teach them a lesson in true value, one that went far beyond the price tags on their shelves. As she stepped into her office, the New York skyline sprawled before her, a testament to human ambition and the power of dreams. Ava took a moment to appreciate the view, to remind herself of how far she had come. Then, with renewed purpose, she turned to her desk. It was time to plan her return to the Gilded Emporium, not as a customer, but as a catalyst for change. Ava settled into her plush leather chair, her mind already racing with ideas. She opened her laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard as she began to outline her plan. This wasn't just about personal vindication. It was about addressing a systemic issue that affected countless individuals every day. "Zoe," she called out, her voice carrying through the open office door. Her assistant appeared within seconds, notepad at the ready. I need you to set up a meeting with our PR team and legal department and get me everything you can find on the Gilded Emporium, their corporate structure, diversity policies, any past incidents or complaints. Zoe nodded, her pen scratching rapidly across the paper. Anything else, Miss Harper? Ava paused, considering. Yes. Contact Danielle's team. See if she's available for a special appearance in the next few days. Danielle was one of Harper Beauty's most high-profile brand ambassadors, a celebrated actress known for her activism as much as her talent. Having her involved would certainly make a statement. As Zoe hurried off to fulfill her tasks, Ava leaned back in her chair, memories flooding her mind. She thought back to her childhood in Atlanta, to the countless times she had been made to feel less than because of the color of her skin or the neighborhood she came from. She remembered her mother's words, spoken softly but with iron conviction. Baby, you're going to face a world that sometimes won't want to see your beauty or your worth. But you hold your head high. You show them who you are through your actions, your kindness, and your strength. Those words had been a guiding light throughout Ava's life, from her early days mixing skincare formulas in her tiny apartment to the boardrooms where she had to fight to be heard. Now, they would guide her once more. Ava's phone buzzed, pulling her from her reverie. It was a text from her best friend, Lisa. Hey girl, how did the shopping trip go? Did you splurge on something fabulous? Ava's fingers hovered over the screen. She hadn't told anyone about the incident yet, not even Lisa. Part of her wanted to brush it off, to pretend it hadn't happened, but she knew that silence only perpetuated the problem. With a deep breath, she began typing, recounting the events at the Gilded Emporium. As she wrote, she felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. Sharing the experience, even just through text, was cathartic. Lisa's response was immediate and filled with righteous indignation. OMG, Ava, that's horrible. We should blast them on social media. I know people who can make this go viral in hours. Ava smiled at her friend's protective fury. Thanks, Lisa, but I have something else in mind. Something bigger. I'll fill you in soon, I promise. Just then, Zoe reappeared at the door. Ms. Harper, I've scheduled the meetings you requested. The PR team can be here in an hour, and legal right after. Also, I've got some preliminary information on the Gilded Emporium. Perfect, Zoe. Thank you. Ava stood, smoothing down her designer dress, the very one she had worn to the Gilded Emporium. It was a reminder of why this mattered so much. Let's get to work. The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Ava met with her PR team, outlining her vision for how to address the incident. She didn't want a public shaming or a boycott. She wanted education, understanding, and lasting change. We're not just responding to one incident, she explained to the room full of attentive faces. We're addressing a larger issue. I want to create a campaign that celebrates diversity in luxury spaces, that challenges the stereotypes of who belongs in high-end stores. Her legal team advised caution, warning of potential backlash or even legal action from the Gilded Emporium. But Ava was undeterred. We're not attacking them, she insisted. We're inviting them to be part of the solution. As the sun began to set over the New York skyline, casting a golden glow across the city, Ava stood at her office window. The plan was coming together. In a few days, she would return to the Gilded Emporium, not as a scorned customer seeking revenge, but as a successful businesswoman offering an opportunity for growth and change. She thought about Madison and Caroline, the saleswomen who had dismissed her so callously. Ava felt no anger towards them now, only a determination to open their eyes, to show them the damage caused by their prejudices. Her phone buzzed again. It was a message from Danielle's manager, confirming her availability and enthusiasm for the project. Ava smiled. Things were falling into place. As she gathered her things to head home, Ava paused at her desk. Her eyes fell on a framed photo, a young Ava with her parents, standing proudly in front of their modest home in Atlanta. She picked up the frame, running her fingers over the image. "We've come a long way," she whispered to her younger self, "and we're not done yet." With renewed determination, Ava left her office, her mind already on the days ahead. The Gilded Emporium had unknowingly set in motion a chain of events that would challenge perceptions, open dialogues, and potentially change lives. As she stepped into the elevator, Ava felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. She was about to step into uncharted territory, to use her voice and her platform in a way she never had before. But she was ready, more than ready. She was driven by a purpose that went beyond herself. The elevator doors closed, and Ava Harper descended into the New York night, carrying with her the hopes and dreams of countless others who had faced similar prejudices. The city lights twinkled like stars, each one a reminder of the lives she hoped to touch with her actions. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for now, Ava allowed herself a moment of quiet pride. She had taken a painful experience and was transforming it into an opportunity for positive change. As her mother had always said, when life gives you lemons, don't just make lemonade. Open a whole lemonade stand. Then that's exactly what Ava intended to do. As Ava's car wound its way through the bustling streets of New York, the city's energy seemed to mirror her own internal buzz of anticipation. The lights of Times Square flashed by, a kaleidoscope of colors that reminded her of the vibrant diversity she was fighting to celebrate. Her phone buzzed with a message from Zoe. Everything's set for tomorrow. Danielle's team confirmed she'll arrive at 10. The PR team has the press release ready for your final approval. Ava typed a quick thank you, her mind already racing ahead to the next day. She had chosen her outfit carefully, a stunning white pantsuit that exuded confidence and professionalism. It was a stark contrast to the dismissive treatment she had received on her last visit to the Gilded Emporium. As the car pulled up to her penthouse apartment, Ava found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. She remembered the countless nights spent perfecting her skincare formulas, the rejection letters from investors who couldn't see past her race and gender, the triumph of her first major sale. Each step had been a battle, but each had also been a lesson. Inside her apartment, Ava kicked off her heels and padded to the floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a breathtaking view of Central Park. The city sprawled before her, a testament to ambition and perseverance. She pressed her palm against the cool glass, grounding herself in the moment. "You've got this, Ava," she whispered to her reflection. The woman staring back at her was strong, determined, and ready to make a difference. She moved to her home office, unable to fully disconnect from the task ahead. Opening her laptop, she began to review the speech she had prepared for tomorrow. It wasn't just about addressing the incident at the Gilded Emporium. It was about starting a larger conversation on inclusivity in luxury spaces. As she read through her words, Ava felt a surge of emotion. This was more than a PR move or a business strategy. It was personal. It was for every person who had ever been made to feel less than, who had been judged based on appearance rather than character. A knock at her door startled her from her thoughts. It was Lisa, bearing takeout from their favorite Thai restaurant and a bottle of wine. "Thought you could use some fuel for tomorrow's big day," Lisa said, enveloping Ava in a warm hug. As they settled on the plush sofa, plates of pad Thai balanced on their laps, Lisa asked, "Are you nervous about tomorrow?" Ava considered the question. "Not nervous, exactly. More determined. This feels like a turning point, you know? Not just for me, but for so many others who've faced similar situations." Lisa nodded, her eyes shining with pride for her friend. "You're going to change lives tomorrow, Ava. You already have, with your company, but this is different." They talked late into the night, Lisa offering encouragement and last-minute advice. When Lisa finally left, Ava felt a renewed sense of purpose. She wasn't just going into battle for herself. She was carrying the hopes and experiences of countless others. As she prepared for bed, Ava's phone lit up with a final message for the night. It was from her mother. "Baby, I'm so proud of you. You show them who you are. Remember, real class isn't about what you wear or what you buy. It's about how you treat people. You've got more class in your little finger than those folks have in their whole store. Go get M." Ava smiled, her mother's words washing over her like a warm embrace. She climbed into bed, setting her alarm for an early start. Tomorrow would be a day of reckoning, not through confrontation, but through education and understanding. As she drifted off to sleep, Ava's mind wandered to the faces of Madison and Caroline, the saleswomen who had dismissed her. She didn't feel anger towards them anymore, only a determination to open their eyes to their own biases. Tomorrow, she would walk into the Gilded Emporium not as a customer seeking revenge, but as a teacher offering a valuable lesson. The night passed quickly, and before she knew it, Ava's alarm was chiming. She rose, feeling remarkably refreshed despite the weight of the day ahead. As she went through her morning routine, applying her own skincare products with practiced ease, she steeled herself for what was to come. Dressed in her crisp white pantsuit, Ava stood before her mirror, channeling all the strength and grace of the powerful women who had come before her. She thought of Rosa Parks, of Maya Angelou, of Michelle Obama, women who had faced adversity with dignity and had changed the world in the process. "Time to make a difference," she said to her reflection, her voice steady and sure. As she left her apartment, the morning sun was just beginning to paint the sky in hues of pink and gold. It felt like a good omen, a sign that light would indeed overcome darkness. In the lobby, Zoe was waiting with a coffee and a tablet, ready to brief Ava on any last-minute details. Together, they stepped into the waiting car, the energy between them charged with purpose. As the car merged into the morning traffic, Ava took a deep breath. In just a few short hours, she would be walking back into the Gilded Emporium. But this time, she wouldn't be walking in alone. She would be carrying with her the hopes, dreams, and dignity of every person who had ever been made to feel less than. The Gilded Emporium was about to receive a lesson in true value, and Ava Harper was ready to be the teacher. The car glided to a stop in front of the Gilded Emporium, its gilded facade gleaming in the morning sun. Ava took a moment to center herself, her hand resting on the door handle. She could see a small crowd gathering near the entrance, a mix of press, curious onlookers, and her own team. "Ready, Ms. Harper?" Zoe asked, her voice steady but tinged with excitement. Ava nodded, a smile spreading across her face. More than ready. As she stepped out of the car, a hush fell over the crowd. Ava stood tall, her white pantsuit a stark contrast against the dark marble of the building. Cameras flashed, capturing the moment for posterity. This was more than just a return visit. It was a statement. Danielle, the face of Harper Beauty's latest campaign, emerged from another car. The actress's presence added another layer of star power to the event, drawing even more attention from the gathered crowd. She greeted Ava with a warm hug, whispering words of encouragement. Together, they approached the entrance of the Gilded Emporium. Ava could see confusion and curiosity on the faces of the staff inside. Good. She wanted them off balance, ready to listen and learn. As they reached the doors, Ava paused, turning to address the crowd and the cameras. "Today," she began, her voice clear and strong, "we're not here to point fingers or assign blame. We're here to open a dialogue about inclusivity, respect, and the true meaning of luxury. Real class isn't about the price tag on a handbag. It's about how we treat each other." With those words hanging in the air, Ava pushed open the doors and stepped inside. The interior was just as she remembered, all marble and gold, crystal chandeliers casting a soft glow over displays of unimaginable luxury. But this time, instead of feeling small, Ava felt empowered. She spotted Madison and Caroline almost immediately. The two saleswomen were standing near a display, their faces a mix of recognition and apprehension. Ava headed straight for them, Danielle at her side. "Good morning," Ava said, her voice warm but firm. "I believe we have some unfinished business to discuss." Madison's face paled slightly, while Caroline looked ready to bolt. Before either could respond, the store manager appeared, his forehead beaded with sweat. "Ms. Harper," he said, his voice strained with forced politeness. "This is quite unexpected. Perhaps we could speak in my office?" Ava shook her head, her smile never wavering. "No, I think here is perfect. After all, this is where it all started, isn't it?" She turned to address not just the manager, but all the staff and customers who had stopped to watch the unfolding scene. "A few days ago, I walked into this store, excited to treat myself to something special. Instead, I was treated with disdain and prejudice, judged not by my character or my means, but by the color of my skin." A murmur ran through the crowd. Ava could see shock and embarrassment on some faces, defiance on others. She pressed on. "I could have left that day and never come back. I could have shared my story on social media, called for boycotts, or filed lawsuits. But that's not why I'm here today." She paused, making eye contact with Madison and Caroline. I'm here because I believe in second chances. I'm here because I believe that education is more powerful than retaliation. And I'm here because luxury, true luxury, should be about making everyone feel valued and respected. The store manager stepped forward, his face a mask of concern. Miss Harper, I assure you, we have strict policies against discrimination of any kind. If there was a misunderstanding, Ava held up a hand, silencing him. This isn't about policies on paper. It's about the unconscious biases we all carry. It's about the assumptions we make based on appearance. And it's about the opportunity we have, right now, to do better. She turned back to the crowd, which had grown larger as words spread through the store. Today, I'm not here as a customer. I'm here to offer the Gilded Emporium a unique opportunity. An opportunity to lead the luxury retail industry in creating truly inclusive spaces. To show that elegance and respect go hand in hand. Danielle stepped forward, adding her voice to Ava's. As a longtime customer of this store and a woman of color, I stand with Ava. It's time for change, and it starts here today. Ava could see the wheels turning in the manager's head. He was clearly weighing the potential PR nightmare against the opportunity Ava was offering. Finally, he nodded. We're listening, Miss Harper. What do you propose? A smile spread across Ava's face. This was the moment she had been waiting for. I'm glad you asked. Let's start with a comprehensive training program on unconscious bias for all staff members. Then, we'll work on diversifying your hiring practices, your marketing materials, and your product offerings. But most importantly, we're going to change the culture here, from the top down. As Ava outlined her plan, she could see a transformation happening in real time. The defensiveness in the staff's postures began to soften. Customers nodded in agreement. Even Madison and Caroline, who had been so dismissive before, were listening intently. This was just the beginning. Ava knew there would be resistance, setbacks, and hard work ahead. But as she stood there, in the heart of the Gilded Emporium, surrounded by the trappings of material luxury, Ava felt the stirrings of something far more valuable, real, lasting change. The day that had started with humiliation was ending in triumph, not through vengeance, but through understanding and growth. As Ava concluded her impromptu speech, the store erupted in applause. She had come here to make a point, but she was leaving having made history. In that moment, standing tall in her white suit, Ava Harper wasn't just a successful entrepreneur or a wrong customer. She was a beacon of hope, a catalyst for change, and a living embodiment of the truth that real class comes from within. The Gilded Emporium would never be the same again, and neither would Ava. As the applause faded, Ava felt a surge of emotion. This wasn't just a personal victory, it was a step towards a more inclusive future. She took a deep breath, savoring the moment before addressing the crowd once more. Thank you all for listening, she said, her voice carrying across the now silent store. But our work here is just beginning. True change doesn't happen overnight. It requires commitment, dedication, and most importantly, action. She turned to the store manager, who was still visibly processing the events unfolding before him. Sir, I'd like to propose a partnership between Harper Beauty and the Gilded Emporium. Together, we can create a model for inclusivity in luxury retail that others will follow. The manager, sensing the gravity of the moment, nodded slowly. Miss Harper, I think we'd be fools not to take you up on that offer. On behalf of the Gilded Emporium, I apologize for your experience, and I commit to working with you to ensure it never happens again to anyone. A ripple of approval went through the crowd. Ava could see Madison and Caroline exchanging glances, their earlier hostility replaced by a mix of shame and curiosity. She made her way over to them, Danielle at her side. Ladies, Ava said, her tone gentle but firm, I hope you'll be part of this change. Your perspectives and experiences will be valuable as we move forward. Caroline, to her credit, met Ava's gaze. Miss Harper, I'm sorry. Truly, I never realized. Madison nodded, her usual poise cracking to reveal genuine remorse. We like to learn, to do better, if you'll give us the chance. Ava smiled, extending her hand to both women. That's all I asked. A chance to learn, to grow, to see beyond our preconceptions. That's how we create real change. As Madison and Caroline shook her hand, Ava felt a weight lift from her shoulders. This wasn't about revenge or humiliation. It was about education and growth. She had turned a moment of pain into an opportunity for transformation. The next few hours flew by in a whirlwind of activity. Ava met with the store's management team, outlining her vision for a comprehensive diversity and inclusion program. Danielle lent her star power to the proceedings, sharing her own experiences and emphasizing the importance of representation in luxury spaces. As the day wore on, Ava noticed a shift in the atmosphere of the store. Staff members who had initially been wary now approached her with questions and ideas. Customers, having witnessed the morning's events, stopped to share their own stories and express their support. By late afternoon, the framework for a groundbreaking partnership was in place. The Gilded Emporium would work with Harper Beauty to implement a series of initiatives, from staff training programs to community outreach efforts. They would collaborate on a special product line that celebrated diversity, with proceeds going to organizations that supported underrepresented entrepreneurs. As Ava prepared to leave, she took one last look around the store. The space that had once made her feel small and unwelcome now held the promise of a more inclusive future. She caught sight of her reflection in a mirror. The woman looking back at her stood tall, confident, and proud. Outside, the sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the city. A small crowd of supporters and media had gathered, eager to hear the outcome of the day's events. Ava stepped up to the impromptu podium, Danielle and the store manager flanking her. "Today marks the beginning of a new chapter," Ava began, her voice clear and strong. "Not just for the Gilded Emporium or for Harper Beauty, but for the entire luxury retail industry. We're setting a new standard, one where elegance is measured not just by what we wear, but by how we treat each other." She went on to outline the partnership and the initiatives they would be implementing. As she spoke, Ava could see the impact of her words on the faces before her. Hope, excitement, and determination reflected back at her. "This is more than just business," she concluded. "It's about creating a world where everyone feels valued, respected, and welcome, where luxury isn't just about price tags, but about the richness of our diverse experiences and perspectives." As applause erupted once more, Ava felt a profound sense of accomplishment. She had turned a moment of humiliation into a movement for change. The journey ahead would be challenging, but she was ready for it. Later that evening, as Ava sat in her apartment reviewing the day's events, her phone buzzed with a message. It was from her mother. "Baby, I just saw you on the news. You didn't just open doors today. You built new ones. I'm so proud of you." Ava smiled, tears pricking at her eyes. She thought of the little girl from Atlanta who had dreamed of making a difference in the world. That little girl could never have imagined this moment, but she had never stopped believing it was possible. As she looked out over the twinkling lights of New York City, Ava felt a renewed sense of purpose. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to effect change. But for now, she allowed herself to bask in the glow of what she had accomplished. The Gilded Emporium had tried to make her feel small, but Ava Harper had risen above it all, turning pain into purpose and prejudice into progress. And this, she knew, was just the beginning. As the first light of dawn began to paint the sky, Ava found herself still awake, her mind buzzing with ideas and possibilities. The events of the previous day had ignited a fire within her, one that demanded action and refused to be extinguished. She moved to her home office, opening her laptop and beginning to type furiously. The partnership with the Gilded Emporium was just the beginning. Ava saw an opportunity to create a movement that would ripple through the entire luxury industry. Hours ticked by unnoticed as she outlined her vision. By the time Zoe called to brief her on the day's schedule, Ava had drafted a comprehensive plan for what she was calling the Inclusive Luxury Initiative. "Zoe," Ava said, her voice brimming with excitement, "cancel my meetings for today. We need to gather the team. Something big is happening." Within an hour, Ava's penthouse was abuzz with activity. Her core team members arrived, curious and eager to hear what their visionary leader had in store. As they settled into the living room, Ava stood before them, her eyes shining with purpose. "Yesterday, we took a stand at the Gilded Emporium," she began. But that was just the first step. Today, we're going to change the face of luxury retail forever. She outlined her plan. A coalition of luxury brands, retailers, and influencers, all committed to promoting inclusivity and diversity in high-end spaces. The initiative would include everything from scholarships for aspiring designers from underrepresented communities to a certification program for truly inclusive luxury brands. We're not just talking about changing a few policies or running some inclusive ad campaigns, Ava explained. We're talking about reimagining the very concept of luxury, making it about the richness of diverse experiences, not just the richness of one's bank account. Her team listened, enraptured. As Ava spoke, she could see the spark of inspiration catching in their eyes. This was bigger than any product launch or marketing campaign they had ever undertaken. This was about changing culture itself. It won't be easy, Ava cautioned. We'll face resistance. Some will say we're diluting the exclusivity that luxury is built on. But we know better. True luxury, true elegance, comes from inclusivity, not exclusivity. As the team began to brainstorm, the energy in the room was electric. Ideas flew back and forth. Partnerships with fashion schools and underserved communities, a mentorship program for young entrepreneurs of color, a series of pop-up shops showcasing diverse designers in luxury shopping districts. Midway through the meeting, Ava's phone buzzed. It was a message from the CEO of one of the world's largest luxury conglomerates. Word of yesterday's events at the Gilded Emporium had spread fast, and he wanted to talk about potentially joining the initiative. Ava smiled, sharing the news with her team. This was happening faster than she had dared to hope. The momentum was building, and she was determined to ride it as far as it would go. As the day wore on, more calls and messages poured in. Designers, retailers, and influencers from across the globe were reaching out, eager to be part of this groundbreaking movement. What had started as a personal slight was blossoming into a global conversation about representation and respect in the world of luxury. By evening, Ava found herself back at her window, gazing out at the city. But this time, she wasn't just looking at the glittering lights and towering skyscrapers. She was seeing possibility. Every storefront, every fashion house, every luxury hotel was an opportunity for change. Her phone buzzed once more. This time, it was Lisa. Girl, have you seen the news? You're trending worldwide. #inclusive luxury is blowing up. Ava laughed, a sound of pure joy and disbelief. It's crazy, isn't it? Yesterday I was worried about how to handle one store. Today, you're changing the world, Lisa finished for her. I always knew you would, Ava. Always. As she hung up, Ava felt a wave of emotion wash over her. She thought of her parents, of the sacrifices they had made to give her opportunities. She thought of every person who had ever been made to feel less than, who had been judged by the color of their skin rather than the content of their character. This is for you, she whispered to the city lights. All of you. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. There would be negotiations and compromises, setbacks and victories. But Ava Harper was ready. She had faced down prejudice with grace and turned humiliation into triumph. Now, she was poised to reshape an entire industry. As she finally prepared for bed, exhausted but exhilarated, Ava caught sight of herself in the mirror. The woman looking back at her was transformed. No longer just an entrepreneur or a success story, she was now a beacon of change, a force for good in a world that desperately needed it. The luxury industry would never be the same, and neither would Ava Harper. As she drifted off to sleep, her dreams were filled with visions of a world where everyone, regardless of their background, could walk into any store, any space, and feel truly welcome. The revolution had begun, and Ava was leading the charge. As the sun rose on a new day, Ava awoke with a renewed sense of purpose. The dreams of the night before had crystallized into a clear vision, and she was eager to set it in motion. She moved through her morning routine with an energy that seemed to crackle in the air around her. By the time she arrived at her office, the Inclusive Luxury Initiative was already gaining momentum. Her inbox was flooded with messages from industry leaders, influencers, and activists, all eager to be part of this groundbreaking movement. Ava's team had been working tirelessly, fielding calls and organizing the influx of support. Ms. Harper, Zoe greeted her, tablet in hand and excitement in her voice. The response has been overwhelming. We've got commitments from 3 major luxury conglomerates, a dozen independent designers, and even a few celebrities who want to lend their voices to the cause. Ava nodded, a smile playing on her lips. That's fantastic, Zoe. But remember, this isn't just about big names and flashy headlines. We need to make sure we're reaching the grassroots too. What about those fashion schools we discussed? The mentorship program? Already on it, Zoe replied, swiping through her tablet. We've reached out to 5 schools in underserved communities. They're thrilled about the possibility of partnering with us. And we've got a list of potential mentors ready to review. As they walked into the conference room for the morning briefing, Ava felt a surge of pride in her team. They had taken her vision and run with it, understanding instinctively that this was about more than just business. It was about creating lasting change. The meeting was a whirlwind of ideas and action plans. They discussed everything from redesigning store layouts to be more welcoming to developing training programs that would help staff recognize and overcome their unconscious biases. Each suggestion was met with enthusiasm and quickly assigned to a team member for follow-up. Midway through the meeting, Ava's phone buzzed with an incoming call. It was the manager from the Gilded Emporium. "Ms. Harper," he began, his voice a mix of excitement and nervousness. "I hope I'm not interrupting, but I had to call. The changes we've implemented, even in just these few days, the impact has been incredible. Our staff is energized. Our customers are responding positively. We've even had people come in just to thank us for taking a stand." Ava felt a warmth spread through her chest. This was what it was all about, real, tangible change that affected people's lives. "That's wonderful to hear," she replied. "But remember, this is just the beginning. We have a long way to go." After the call, Ava shared the news with her team. It was a powerful reminder of why their work mattered, and it seemed to redouble everyone's determination. As the day progressed, Ava found herself juggling interviews with major publications, conference calls with potential partners, and strategy sessions with her team. The Inclusive Luxury Initiative was rapidly evolving from a concept into a movement, and Ava was at the heart of it all. By late afternoon, she finally had a moment to herself. Standing by the window in her office, looking out over the city, Ava reflected on how far she had come. From a young girl dreaming big in Atlanta to a woman reshaping an entire industry. It was almost too much to comprehend. Her reverie was interrupted by a knock at the door. It was Madison, one of the saleswomen from the Gilded Emporium. "Miss Harper," Madison began, her voice trembling slightly. "I hope I'm not overstepping, but I had to come and thank you in person. The training we've been going through, the conversations we're having, it's opened my eyes in ways I never expected. I realize now how much harm I've caused, even unintentionally. I want to do better, to be better." Ava listened, moved by the genuine remorse and determination in Madison's voice. This, she realized, was the true measure of success, not in sales figures or media coverage, but in changed hearts and minds. "Madison," Ava replied, stepping forward to shake her hand, "thank you for coming. Your willingness to learn and grow is exactly what this initiative is all about. We all have work to do, myself included, but together we can create real change." As Madison left, visibly emotional, Ava felt a renewed surge of energy. The day wasn't over yet, and there was still so much to do. She turned back to her desk, ready to dive into the next task. The Inclusive Luxury Initiative was more than just a project now. It was a mission, and Ava Harper was just getting started. Outside her window, the sun was setting over New York City, painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink. To Ava, it looked like the dawn of a new era, an era of inclusivity, of respect, of true luxury that went beyond price tags and brand names. As she picked up her phone to make another call, Ava smiled to herself. The journey ahead would be challenging, but she was ready. After all, she had already turned a moment of humiliation into a movement for change, and this was only the beginning. As the weeks turned into months, Ava's Inclusive Luxury Initiative grew beyond her wildest dreams. What had started as a response to a personal slight had blossomed into a global movement, reshaping the landscape of high-end retail and fashion. On a crisp autumn morning, Exactly 1 year after her fateful visit to the Gilded Emporium, Ava found herself standing before a crowd of industry leaders, activists, and media at the first annual Inclusive Luxury Summit. The venue was none other than the grand ballroom of the Gilded Emporium itself, a symbolic choice that wasn't lost on anyone present. As Ava took the stage, a hush fell over the room. She paused for a moment, taking in the sea of faces before her. Faces of all colors, ages, and backgrounds, united in their commitment to change. A year ago, Ava began, her voice strong and clear. I walked into this very building feeling small, unwelcome, and angry. Today, I stand before you feeling proud, hopeful, and deeply grateful. She went on to outline the achievements of the past year. Over 500 luxury brands had signed on to the Inclusive Luxury Pledge, committing to diverse hiring practices, inclusive marketing, and ongoing bias training. The mentorship program had paired over 1,000 aspiring designers and entrepreneurs from underrepresented communities with industry leaders. Fashion weeks around the globe had seen a marked increase in diversity, both on the runways and behind the scenes. But our work is far from over, Ava cautioned. True change takes time, dedication, and constant vigilance. We must continue to challenge our assumptions, to listen to voices that have long been silenced, and to reimagine what luxury truly means in a diverse and interconnected world. As she spoke, Ava could see nodding heads and hear murmurs of agreement. The energy in the room was palpable, a mix of pride in what had been accomplished and determination to push even further. Today, we're not just celebrating our successes, Ava continued. We're laying the groundwork for the future. I'm thrilled to announce the launch of the Inclusive Luxury Fund, a $50 million initiative to support emerging designers from underrepresented backgrounds. The announcement was met with thunderous applause. Ava smiled, thinking of the countless lives this fund would touch, the doors it would open, the dreams it would help realize. As she concluded her speech, Ava's eyes fell on two familiar faces in the crowd. Madison and Caroline, the saleswomen who had once dismissed her, were now sitting in the front row, wearing badges that identified them as diversity ambassadors for the Gilded Emporium. Let us leave here today not just inspired, but committed, Ava said, her voice ringing with passion. Committed to creating a world where luxury is defined not by exclusivity, but by the richness of our diverse experiences and perspectives. A world where everyone feels valued, respected, and welcome. The standing ovation that followed seemed to shake the very foundations of the building. As Ava stepped down from the podium, she was engulfed in a sea of well-wishers, each eager to share how the initiative had impacted their lives and businesses. Later that evening, as the summit wound down, Ava found a quiet moment alone in the very spot where she had been humiliated a year ago. She stood there, running her hand along the smooth surface of a display case, marveling at how much had changed. "Miss Harper?" a voice interrupted her reverie. It was the store manager, looking considerably more relaxed and genuine than he had during their first encounter. "I just wanted to thank you again. What you've done, it's transformed not just our store, but our entire industry. We're honored to be part of this journey." Ava smiled warmly, shaking his hand. "Thank you for being open to change. That's where it all starts." As she left the store that night, stepping out into the bustling New York street, Ava felt a profound sense of accomplishment. But more than that, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. The Inclusive Luxury Initiative had achieved so much, but there was still a long way to go. She hailed a taxi, her mind already racing with ideas for the coming year. As the cab wove through the city traffic, Ava caught sight of her reflection in the window. The woman looking back at her was stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. The luxury industry had indeed been changed forever, but so had Ava Harper, and she was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that with every step forward, she was helping to create a more inclusive, respectful, and truly luxurious world for all. As the taxi turned onto her street, Ava smiled to herself. Tomorrow was a new day, bringing with it new opportunities to make a difference, and she couldn't wait to get started. As Ava stepped out of the taxi and into the cool night air, her phone buzzed with a notification. It was an email from a young designer in Lagos, Nigeria, thanking her for the opportunity provided by the Inclusive Luxury Fund. The designer's words were filled with hope and determination, reminding Ava of herself when she was just starting out. Riding the elevator up to her penthouse, Ava felt a renewed surge of energy. The day had been long and emotionally charged, but this simple message from halfway across the world reinforced the global impact of her work. It wasn't just about changing the luxury industry, it was about changing lives. As she entered her apartment, Ava was greeted by a surprise. Her parents, who had flown in from Atlanta for the summit, were waiting for her with warm smiles and open arms. The sight of them, her father's proud gaze and her mother's tear-filled eyes, brought a lump to Ava's throat. "Baby girl," her mother said, enveloping her in a tight hug, "you've done it. You've really done it." Her father, usually a man of few words, simply nodded and said, "You've made a difference, Ava, a real difference." As they sat together in the living room, sharing a late-night cup of tea, Ava found herself recounting stories from the past year, the challenges, the triumphs, the moments of doubt, and the breakthroughs. Her parents listened intently, occasionally interjecting with words of wisdom or encouragement. "You know," her father said during a lull in the conversation, "when you were a little girl, you used to tell us you were going to change the world. We always believed in you, but I don't think we ever imagined it would be quite like this." Ava smiled, remembering her childhood dreams. "I couldn't have done it without you both," she said softly. "Everything you taught me, every sacrifice you made, it all led to this." As the night wore on, Ava felt a deep sense of contentment wash over her. Here she was, surrounded by the love of her parents, having just witnessed the fruition of a year's worth of hard work and dedication. Yet, even in this moment of triumph, her mind was already racing towards the future. She excused herself for a moment, walking to her home office. On her desk lay a notebook, its pages filled with ideas and plans for the coming year. Ava picked up a pen and began to write, outlining her vision for expanding the inclusive luxury initiative even further. There were still so many areas to address, from increasing representation in fashion photography to ensuring inclusive sizing in luxury brands. She jotted down ideas for partnerships with tech companies to create virtual reality experiences that would make luxury more accessible to everyone. She sketched out plans for a global tour, bringing the message of inclusive luxury to fashion weeks and design schools around the world. As she wrote, Ava felt that familiar spark of excitement igniting within her. The past year had been incredible, but she knew it was just the beginning. There were still minds to change, barriers to break, and dreams to realize. Returning to the living room, Ava found her parents had dozed off on the couch, the picture of contentment. She gently draped a blanket over them, feeling a rush of love and gratitude. Their unwavering support had been her foundation, allowing her to reach heights she had once only dreamed of. Ava walked to the window, gazing out at the glittering New York skyline. Each twinkling light seemed to represent a life touched by the inclusive luxury initiative, a reminder of the real-world impact of her work. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, and new horizons to explore. But for now, in the quiet of the night, Ava allowed herself to simply be present in this moment of achievement. As she turned away from the window, her eyes fell on a framed photo on the mantel. It was a picture of her as a young girl, standing proudly in front of her first store, a lemonade stand with a hand-painted sign that read, "Harper's Fancy Lemonade. Everyone welcome." Ava chuckled softly to herself. Even then, she had understood the importance of inclusivity. That little girl with big dreams could never have imagined where those dreams would lead, but she had never stopped believing in them. As Ava finally prepared for bed, she felt a profound sense of purpose settle over her. The Inclusive Luxury Initiative wasn't just a project or a career move, it was her calling, and she was ready to answer that call day after day, year after year, for as long as it took to create a truly inclusive world. Tomorrow was a new day, bringing with it endless possibilities, and Ava Harper was ready to seize every single one of them. As the first rays of sunlight crept through the windows of Ava's penthouse, she was already awake, her mind buzzing with ideas. The events of the previous day had not only energized her, but had also opened up new avenues of thought and possibility. She moved quietly through the apartment, careful not to wake her parents who were still sleeping peacefully on the couch. In the kitchen, she brewed a pot of coffee, the rich aroma filling the air and helping to sharpen her focus. With a steaming mug in hand, Ava made her way to her home office. She settled into her chair, opening her laptop and pulling up the document where she had been outlining her plans for the coming year. As she read through her notes from the night before, she felt a surge of excitement. The ideas that had seemed almost dreamlike in the late hours now felt tangible and within reach. Her phone buzzed with a message from Zoe. "Congratulations on yesterday's summit. The feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. When you're ready, we have some exciting proposals to discuss." Ava smiled, typing out a quick reply. She had always appreciated Zoe's efficiency and enthusiasm, qualities that had been invaluable in bringing the inclusive luxury initiative to life. As she was about to return to her planning, another notification caught her eye. It was an alert from a fashion industry news site. Exclusive, major luxury brand faces backlash over discriminatory hiring practices. Ava's heart sank as she read through the article. It detailed allegations of systemic discrimination at one of the oldest and most prestigious fashion houses in Europe. The brand in question had been one of the few holdouts, refusing to sign on to the inclusive luxury pledge despite numerous overtures from Ava and her team. For a moment, Ava felt a wave of frustration wash over her. After all the progress they had made, after all the barriers they had broken down, how could this still be happening? But as quickly as the feeling came, it was replaced by a steely determination. This wasn't a setback, she realized. This was an opportunity to show the world why the inclusive luxury initiative was so crucial, to demonstrate in real time how the industry could respond to and learn from such incidents. Ava picked up her phone, her fingers flying across the screen as she typed out messages to her core team. "Emergency meeting in an hour. We need to respond to this, and fast." As she waited for replies, Ava's mind was already formulating a plan. They would reach out to the brand, not to condemn, but to offer support and guidance. They would use this as a case study, a teachable moment for the entire industry. And most importantly, they would amplify the voices of those who had been discriminated against, ensuring their stories were heard and their experiences validated. The smell of coffee and the sound of quiet conversation drifted in from the living room, indicating her parents were awake. Ava took a deep breath, centering herself before joining them. As she walked out of her office, she caught sight of herself in a mirror. The woman looking back at her was not defeated or discouraged by the news. Instead, she saw a leader ready to face the next challenge head-on. A woman who understood that real change was not a destination but a journey, with ups and downs, victories and setbacks. "Good morning," she said, entering the living room with a smile. Her parents looked up, immediately sensing the purposeful energy radiating from their daughter. "What's on the agenda for today, sweetheart?" her father asked, a knowing glint in his eye. Ava's smile widened. "Oh, you know," she said casually, "just changing the world, one luxury brand at a time." As she sat down to enjoy a quick breakfast with her parents, Ava felt a renewed sense of purpose coursing through her veins. Yesterday had been about celebrating how far they'd come. Today was about facing the challenges that remained, about pushing even harder for the change they sought to create. The Inclusive Luxury Initiative was more than just a project or a movement now. It was a revolution, and Ava Harper was leading the charge. As she sipped her coffee and listened to her parents chat, she knew that whatever obstacles lay ahead, she was ready to face them. After all, true luxury was about rising to challenges, about creating beauty from adversity. And Ava was determined to show the world just how luxurious inclusivity could be.